Hey, feeling good, like I should. When in dark, I walk around the neighborhood, feeling blessed.
Alrighty, here we've got some problems that take us back to last year when we were working on the 5D process. And you recall, when we started the 5D process, we were just doing guess and check. But eventually we got to the point where we could define our variables and we could set up an equation. And then once we solved the equation, then we would have our answer. And this is a much more efficient use of our time rather than continuously guessing and checking until you eventually get the correct answer. If you end up with a problem where you've got decimal number answers, that guessing and checking can go on for a very, very long time. So, I'm not going to go through and work out each of these individual problems per se. If you have one that you want me to work out for you, just let me know, and I will take care of that for you. In the meantime, I'll just pick like a couple of them and give you the basic idea of how we would define these variables and then how we would work through the process. So a wood board, for number one, is 100 centimeters long and is cut into two pieces, right? So you got your first piece and the second piece, right? So if it says one piece is 26 centimeters longer than the other, then your first piece we could just call X, and the second one we would be 26 more than X. And if the total sum of these two boards ends up being 100 centimeters long, then by the time we combine like terms, you got 2x plus 26 is equal to 100, right? Because this board plus this board combined like terms is equal to 100 centimeters long. So now it'd just be a process of subtracting 26 from each side and then dividing by 2 to get the length of x, which would be the first piece. That would be 37 centimeters. And then the second one would be 26 more than that, which would be 63. Now, if this is correct, then we should be able to add this piece to this piece and get 100 for the answer. And that would be how you would decide if the answer was correct. You would check it. You'd make sure that each one of those meets our definitions. This is 26 more than that. And the combined total is 100, which makes these the correct answer. 2 is 5 years older than Tuan. So if the combined age is 51, Tuan would be X, and 2 would be X plus 5. So that means that 2X plus 5 would be equal to 51. So you take away 5 from each side, then divide by 2, and it turns out Tuan, X, would be 23 years old, and 2 would be 5 years more than him, which would be 28. And so does this meet our definitions? This is 5 more than this. And the combined total, 23 plus 28, is 51. So that means we've got our answer correct. I'm going to jump forward to problems 4 and 5. Two consecutive numbers would be like 5 and 6, or 100 and 101. So that means one of them would be X and the other one would be X plus 1. And if you add them together and their sum is 123, that means that 2X's plus 1 has to be 123, which means that 2X's would be 122. And then when you cut 122 in half, you get 61. So that means the other number must be 62. And is 61 plus 62 123? Yes, it is. The difference between this problem 4 and this problem 5 is that for problem 5, they're consecutive even numbers, which means that you've got numbers like 4 and 6, or 22 and 24, or 54 and 56. So the second integer, or the second number, is 2 more than the previous one, and their sum is 246. That means it has to be 2x plus 2 equals 246, which means that 2x's is equal to 244, which means that 1x would be 122. So the two numbers must be 122 and 124, because when you add those two numbers together, you get 246, and they are consecutive even numbers. Okay, so if you want me to do any of these others that I haven't done, I've pretty much gotten most of them, I'll work through them for you, but you just check your work and see if you can figure out where you might have made your mistakes. 6 might be a little bit tricky depending on who you decided was your X. I decided to make Christina my X, which made Aaron X plus 6, and made Joe 3 times X plus 6. So you had to use distributive property the way that I set it up. If you didn't want to use distributive property, X could have been, Aaron could have been X, which would have made this 3X, but then Christina, you would have had to say was X minus 6. Either way, you would get to your correct answer by solving for X and then adding or doing subtraction. I guess if X is this guy, then you'd subtract to get Christina and then multiply times 3. Okay, so there you go. Hopefully you understood that fairly well. And once again, I can work out any of these problems a little bit more slowly if you need me to do that for you. All right, take care. Bye.
Hey, feeling good, like I should.